Kei ngā iwi o te motu anei tō tātou piringa marae e whakapiripiri nei I a tātou I tēnei ata nō reira tēnā tātou katoa. The world record for the largest haka is safely back in Aotearoa's arms. E homa, just over 6,500 people, 6,531 to be exact, were at Ngā Anawai Eden Park last Sunday night to perform Te Rauparaha's iconic haka, kamate, and wrest the record back from the French. Now, those thousands were just a small portion of New Zealanders who enjoy Kapa Haka. Kapa Haka has the second highest rate of active participation in Aotearoa, New Zealand, according to Stats New Zealand, sitting just behind sport. The government has acknowledged the impact of Kapa Haka and what it can do for us. They've allocated $48.7 million over the next 3 years to help strengthen and support Kapa Haka here in Aotearoa and across the world. That funding starts in July 2025. Carl Ross is mana hautu of Te Matatini and he joins me now e te rangatira tēnā koe.
Morena, Scotty.
Hua tāhua te hutu I tēnei ata e hoa tino a tāhua. Now, you were there at Ngā Anawai last week. Give us your perspective of what you saw and what stood out for you in the world record-setting Kapa Haka display.
I think the kaupapa was the main driver for Matatini to be involved in and give our support. I think for everyone who came to the record, it was a privilege to actually stand there as Māori and know that that haka comes from our country and it's our point of difference. Everyone knows kamate, so it needed to come back to us. I think it was a bit of a political, maybe a football ploy just to, give the All Blacks a bit of a spike, but they didn't realise the impact that has and how deep kapa and haka is for us. Yeah.
I think apart from the world record, it was also a strong statement to the current political climate, I thought, about the uniqueness and the value and the power of the Indigenous culture here in Aotearoa, of Māori culture. And it was really awesome to see, and I'm sure you'll tautoko this, it was really awesome to see the amount of non-Māori who were there participating in this world record-setting haka, ne?
It is, and I suppose it's the new alignment of Te Matatini and the new vision that's been set by our national board, mana motu haka ki te kāinga matatu mataora matatini ki te ao, says it all really, because the mana motu haka does belong to our people, and matatini ki te ao, we're taking Kapa Haka to the world and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and this is what the world wants to see. It
is getting bigger and bigger. I mean, we've obviously got a government who's very focused on te ohanga, on the economy. We get that messaging a lot from the government, and if we're talking about how Matatini contributes to the New Zealand economy, we've got 22 million in Taranaki, here in Tāmaki, 2023 at Matatini. That's grown from the 15 million in Wellington in 2019, so it's obviously growing a lot, not only in terms of the numbers and the participation, but also what it contributes to the economy of Aotearoa.
One of the main parts of when we look at what's the fiscal contribution Kapa Haka makes to our national economy, we need to look at Kapa Haka as a whole, because Kapa Haka is, people see Kapa Haka as being something that's done on a stage, and you don't realise that actually there's more people doing Kapa Haka off the stage than on the stage. We've got we have 2,500 schools out there, and 2,000 schools actually have Kapa Haka teams. 70% of those schools, those Kapa Haka teams are Māori, 30% are non-Māori, and each one of those non-Māori bring 6 of their whānau into te ao Māori. So it's just absolutely massive, whichever way we look. And the more money that we're putting back into our communities around kapa, the bigger Kapa Haka's getting. I mean, the national economy now, this current government is taking Matatini on all the trade missions. Because we see when we're sitting doing our negotiations across the table to another culture, they'll sit there with their heads down and they won't be looking at you in the eye. And sometimes people think, oh, well, that's just a respectful thing because their culture don't eyeball you back. But in reality, we need to reflect back on the way we do our negotiations. And first and foremost, we should actually break down the cultural barriers that exist. And then when you see them, they'll be sitting there looking you in the eye. You stand up, sing a waiati, you stand them up and do kamate with whoever you are with. If you're in China, doing it with them, they love it. Next minute they'll be bringing out a dragon, they get you to go under there, do this stuff, and you might be playing for the first morning, but the trade negotiations after that is a smooth road.
Because you've built the whanaungatanga, and you've
That's right.
built it through that cultural integrity that we bring to the table here in Aotearoa. We bring the cultural integrity that we can then build with their culture.
Yep.
And that builds the whanaungatanga, and then you're able to carry on with the business with with those good relations already intact. Were you sort of surprised by the Stats New Zealand, the latest statistics to come from Stats New Zealand about the high participation rate of Kapa Haka, just outside sport, the second most participated activity in Aotearoa?
No, I'm not. I think because parallel to that is the audience numbers. So the biggest audience we have in New Zealand is actually New Zealand On Air, and we all know that because we're all part of that whānau. Second to that is Sport New Zealand, and third is Kapa Haka. So, you know, we're sitting at this playground now where the reality is that Kapa Haka is being done. We do Kapa Haka when we welcome new staff. We go down to Waihere and the Marae there, and the cooks will come out and they've still got their knives on their side, and they'll be doing a haka pōhiri to welcome you to someone's 21st or a wedding. So it's practiced in everyday New Zealand life, and that's what we need to look at. So now, with the increase in funding, we're getting more equitable funding to be able to support our rohe in meeting its needs, and that's just growing kapa. Yeah, we're
talking about how impressive the growth is here in Aotearoa, and you spoke a little bit about the trade missions and how Te Matatini supports the trade missions, but there's also that goal of taking Kapa Haka worldwide. How is Te Matatini doing that apart from participating in those trade missions?
Well, currently there's an endless number of festivals throughout the world who are coming to Te Matatini to ask for Kapa Haka. And we support as many as we can with the funding that we do have. But countries now are coming to the table to say, look, if you could just get their airfares here, we will look after them, we'll pay for everything for them, because we really want them to come. And that's, over the years, we've seen the Edinburgh military tattoo and the festivals in Taiwan, right throughout the world. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and people want to see. I think one of the notable points of Te Matatini festivals, especially for the new festival that's coming up, we're looking at translating into 8 different languages because of the amount of people who are coming in and want to know what's actually been said on the stage. Yeah.
I korero mai koe mo te mahi a te Kapa Haka. He waka he kawe I te ahurea ki te marea, engari neke noa atu I tā te tangata mātaki I rungi te atamira. It's more than just what you see on the stage. There's a whole lot more to it. And you mentioned all the whānau behind it, all the preparation, all of these things that go on behind the scenes. Tētahi atu mea kāre pēa ki te ana, tētahi atu hua o te Kapa Haka, kāre ki te ana e te karu, engari e rongohi ana e te wairua me te ngākau. It's that social and cultural well-being of Māori, something else that's unseen in terms of what Kapa Haka can provide. So can you speak to that? How does Kapa Haka impact and affect the social and cultural well-being of us as Māori people?
I think looking back on setting up for a national festival, for example, I think in 1981 was my first stand on the national stage in Avondale. When I look back and compare yesterday to today, for example, you have, we used to have our waiata practice, and then we might pop down the local for a few and then come back. And
yes, I remember those days. Brother.
That's right, yeah. And the next day we might have a bit of a practice and then finish off. Yeah. But today you come to a wānanga and you have the kaihotu or our leaders, and they say, oh, anei, ko mutu te tangi o te pere, anei ko kōrero Māori ngā wākatoa, tairua I te timatanga mai o te wānanga, tairua hoki ki te rātapu. So kore kōrero pāka kei roto. That's one big change that we notice, and ko maumahane te kōrero o tākuta ngā pō wehe me tono hoa Auntie Nen. Ko te mea tuatahi, ko te reo, me ngā tikanga me tō whānau, mo te tautoko ki te atua. Ko te tuarua ko te Kapa Haka, and we were devastated when we heard him say that, because it was like Kapa Haka was everything to us. But ko kite ana he arawa rā te kiko kei roto I tana kōrero, I tēnei wā, the health being, the wellness, the sausages and the spaghetti and heaps of mashed potatoes is all gone now. When we sit down, half of the team's actually cooking their own kai and fat-free fryers, and they've got their own diet food coming, and they've got their BCAAs and all the rest of it. So it's become so professional now, and the good thing about it is our mokopune, our tamariki, are watching. They're watching our mums and our dads, and in some cases their nana and their papa get up at 5:30 in the morning and hit the road, go for a run, and come back. They see the no smoking around the houses now. He tohu mō rātou mā. It's good for our children to see that, because it's leading the way. We've got Matatini is doing some really interesting work at the moment with the Grace Foundation, for example. For a lot of our people who are under the justice system care, and using Kapa Haka as a vehicle to be able to help decrease reoffending and reintegration into society, and that's only cool. That's just something that's really valuable to us all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, tautoko I o kōrero mo te whanaketanga me te rereke haeretanga o te Kapa Haka I roto I ngā tau I a tāua, ki ngā tau o tēnei wā, because I remember exactly what you were saying, you know. There wasn't much Māori spoken at our practices in the early 90s, and the food, definitely not what the kapa are eating now. We didn't have training programs or anything like that. Now it's a very holistic thing. Taha tinana, taha wairua, everything else all going with it, and that's been one of the fantastic things of Kapa Haka over the years, and the contribution that it makes to our well-being as people, holistically. You mentioned that the funding has increased. How does Te Matatini distribute the funding? Where does all the funding go?
Well, during my time in Wellington, I moved to Wellington in 2000 actually, and one thing I noticed in a lot of senior roles in Wellington is the amount of money that we have that comes into government in those times, and how much of it actually makes it to our people. How much it actually makes to our people, and in reality, what I noticed back then is like 2/3 of it's actually used up in bureaucracy, where 1/3 of it actually makes it to our people. So one of the ideas that we had together with our national board is to turn that around and try and get 2/3 of it out to our people and grow our organisation on 1/3, which we've been successful in doing. A lot of people said you're not going to be able to do it, but we are doing it. So mana motu hake ki te kāinga means 2/3 of our pūtea goes out to our rohe, and they have a look at where this is going to be dispersed. Mai ngā tamariki mokopuna I te kohanga reo, te mana kuratahi, ngā Kapa Haka kura tuarua and Pākeke, and our kaumātu and kuia. So it's not just about our event that we hold every 2 years, because people see Matatini as this event management group. It's actually about supporting our rohe to do what we need to do in Kapa Haka, and that's what's exciting. But what comes with that is a lot of responsibility and reporting on what initiatives have been agreed to. So our rohe report back on what were the outputs that they've met with the funding that they've had, and we've agreed on and signed that off prior to giving the funding out. That comes back, and all those outputs meet the overall positive outcomes for Māoridom as a whole, and that's what's the processes we've got in place, and it's starting to work really well.
Tēnā koe hoa. Geez, you do a fantastic job, brother. I really appreciate it. And for those of people who don't remember those glory days of Kapa Haka, Mr. Carl Rossy was one of the stars of the Kapa Haka stage back in the day. But really appreciate what you do for our people, brother, and what you do in Te Matatini and the fantastic organisation that it is. Also really appreciate you coming in to talk to us this morning. And I know that you're right in the middle of preparations for Matatini 2025, Te Matatini o te kāhui maunga. Nō reira mihi ana ki a koutou, kia kaha koutou, I roto I ngā marama kei mui te ororo, e te tuki pai ai a koutou, ngā whakaritenga mo te Matatini a te rātou. We'll all be there. E mihi ana kia koe, kao tēnā koe, te rangatira kia orara. Hoi nō rei tiwi, hei tērā taha o ngā whakatairanga, we meet a man carving out a career in butchery. No mai no kia marae, carving out a career in freezing work chains has been a pathway for many Māori over the years, but competitive butchery lifts the stakes a bit. Luke Bird headed to Pack and Save Silverdale in Taraki Pai Whenua to meet one of Aotearoa's best butchers.
From ribeye to sirloin, pork belly to tenderloins, when it comes to butchery, New Zealand Young Butcher of the Year, Luca Young, is the name in the game. And now he's helping others realise their potential. But what does it take to become the best of the best? Well, let's sharpen up those knives, because we're going to the butchers.
I left school at a young age, and I'd done a pre-trade course at the Unitec. One day I was walking through the local Pack and Save Lincoln Road, and a guy I had done the pre-trade course with was working in there doing his apprenticeship. He influenced me to get into it, so I started working in the butchery department and just worked there until I earned my apprenticeship and went from there.
While studying and working full-time and raising a whānau, Luca also signed himself up for butchery competitions.
I entered the Apprentice of the Year back in 2012, my first year as an apprentice. I wanted to challenge myself, and I saw the rewards of if you could win. If you put two butchers together and you go, we're going for a job, and one is just a qualified butcher, but two, the other guy, he's entered competitions, he's managed to win. It just sort of sets you apart.
Now, when you won, you were living and working in Kaitaia. How did your community of Kaitaia receive your win?
Oh, it was amazing. Like, I couldn't go anywhere at the time without being noticed. Yeah, you go around town, you hear, that's the butcher, that's the butcher. You know, people would come up to me in store and congratulate me, and it felt good being within a small community and inspiring people up there that even though it was a small community, you can go out there and conquer the world. I'm going to Paris next year, all through butchering. So winning those comps gets you a paid trip overseas, where you get to represent your country.
What do you have to mentally do and prepare yourself for Paris and those big international butchery competitions?
You've got to put the work in. So one, you've got to understand the competition, so know the rules and what's required of you. And then two, you've got to put reps in, so that when it comes time to do it, it's just natural. Congratulations, Caleb.
Thank you.
Welcome. It opened a lot of doors for me. I'm still butchering in-store, but I also have a role within foodstuffs now. We're here today to sign you into your apprenticeship. It was a very popular role, and by being young butcher and doing those competitions, it set me apart.
These days, as well as representing Aotearoa overseas as part of the Sharp Blacks, Luca is now the butchery training manager for grocery giant Foodstuffs.
Where would you find your DFD, so your dark firm dry? We look over all the apprentices within the Foodstuffs program. So we look after the North Island apprentices and all the Pack and Saves, New Worlds and Foursquares. So what would you do if you came across it? Yeah, perfect. That just entails signing them up, going through, getting their unit standards to them. When they need a helping hand, be there. We go and visit them quarterly. So sub goes below the water, so subcutaneous fat's below the hind. The hardest thing to learn would probably be the beef carcass when you get into it. It is a big job, breaking down from top to bottom, comes in quarters, and then you're separating all of that into different muscles, and then from those muscles you cut all your steaks and all that sort of stuff.
That was a hard topic for me, that one.
Yeah. It's a lot to take in.
As Luca steps up, Hugh Robertson is stepping back, knowing future butchers are in great hands.
Luca is just a model apprentice. He was always really well prepared. I was so pleased when he applied for the job to take over from me, because I knew that Luca would take it to another level. I think that's one of the things you really want when you retire. You just want somebody who's just going to add more value to that job, and Luca is ideal for it.
Hey, Ruth.
Hey, Hi, how's it going?
Oh, good to see you on the nice. Oh, I've got your... I'm hands-on with all the new apprentices, so you've got 100+ apprentices you've got to keep an eye on and stuff like that. And obviously, yeah, we've got your apprenticeship training plan here. So I've just gone through, I've got your new progress report, so you're all up to date. Everything's completed. It was good for me to be able to inspire the next generation of guys and girls. If I can shine a light on our industry and help them progress, that's what I'm looking forward to doing, is showing them what can be achieved and pushing them, giving them a push to be great.
Luca Young, he's 35, grew up out west, but has whakapapa up north in the mighty Te Matatini.
I wouldn't be where I am without my whānau. I've got 4 kids. My oldest is 17 and my youngest is 2.5. You just want to provide for them. You want to provide the best life that they can have, so you're inspired to go away and work hard and better yourself and find opportunities to provide better for them.
Although most of his job is done behind freezer doors, Luca relishes the idea of serving his customers and suggesting cuts for kai.
It's when they come in looking for something and you give them different options and then you tell them how to cook it and that. And when they take it away and they come back and say how good it was, yeah, there's nothing more rewarding than that. Yeah.
There's a bit of pressure out there right now on budgets. People's wallets are a bit tighter. But just between you and me, what's the best buy in meat?
I'd say you can't go past chicken. It's the cheaper option, and it can go far, especially if a chicken breast special, you cook some rice with it. Butter chicken, always find chicken drums cheap, just chuck them in the oven, put a marinade on if you want. But best option for price, you can't go past chicken, yeah.
Having a masa order is incredible. What kind of reaction have you received from customers?
Man, I tell you, when I first got it, I'd be working on the case, filling the case with the meat. There was a couple of times where people would stand there and just stare at you, and then you'd look up and, oh, can I help you? And can I give you a hongi? And I was like, yeah, for sure. Like, being able to inspire other people, like, here's a man working somewhere that, hey, he's not been discriminated against. Hopefully other people can go, I'm going to go get mine. Like, being of a fairer skin too, I've had people go, oh, I've always wanted to get mine, but I'm scared. It's got nothing to be scared of. Like, you know, if you whakapapa Māori, you are Māori. I don't take it for granted. I know now that I've got it, you've got to be a role model, be a leader, reclaim my reo, so learning my reo now, telling the world this is who I am. This is my story thus far on my face. So just being proud.
Ka pai tēnā pūrongo. Now, an iwi near Levin has requested Marae to help solve a decades-old mystery. Leigh Marama McLaughlin answered the call.
No mai ki Tukorehe Marae, on the outskirts of Levin. Home to Ngāti Tukorehe, and home to a mystery portrait that the iwi want help to identify. Kia ora!
Kia ora. Well, thank you for having me.
Keelan takes me into the warenui to have a look.
And what gets me about it is just the detail, which is quite amazing.
So what's the story?
So the queer appeared around just after the turn into the year 2000. Auntie Hana had gone to an op shop.
I'm not sure whether it was whānau, but I'm pretty sure it was Paraparaumu hokohoko shop. You know, second-hand shops. And God, this is years ago, right? 20 years ago, maybe? Like, we all used to go because you get a bargains in these hokohoko shops, all of us, and good bargains.
She had a look around and she came across a box of pictures and she was looking at the pictures and the picture of the queer popped up. She said she took a little time to look at her and then put her back, and she went to go and walk out the door, and she just couldn't leave her behind.
Hana, she said something just took over her, you know, probably all her tupuna comes and says, right, bye that, bye. Honestly, I do think, God, would I have done that? When I think about it and think what Hana did, I think that's fabulous. Would I have done it? Probably not. Oh, God.
She came to the next Marae Committee meeting and said to the whānau at the Marae Committee meeting, I found this kuia in a op shop. I couldn't leave her behind, and I just wonder if I can leave her on the wall in the whare, that one day one of her descendants may come to visit us during the tangi or a hui ora and see her kuia, and the kuia could go home with her whānau.
Right or wrong, Hana was going to hang it in the meeting house, and she came down the Tuakana line so no one could say no to her. And we all agreed, this woman agreed. I'm not too sure what the men said, but we didn't worry about that because us women are the bosses.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody so determined to want to have something up on the wall in the whare that didn't belong to us. And you could see how big Auntie's heart was to want to help another whānau find a whānau member. Because I think if you put yourself in her shoes, you too would want to do that.
She's beautiful. We're going to find your whānau. We are.
It's been 2 decades since then. Hundreds of people have come through and heard the story. But the question remains, who is this striking kuia?
I remember Tareana Turia coming down, you know, when she set up the Māori party and all of that. And she said, oh, she wanted to see it. She said, oh, maybe my kuia, you know. She had a good look and she said, no, it's not, but I wish it was, eh?
What have you done to try and get the message out there?
Over the years, we've tried to put her out on all the platforms that we know about, and nieces and nephews that are clever at that, putting it out on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram. Well, we haven't had many hits.
Hana always wondered why a photo of this kuia, beautiful kuia, no signature or anything on the back, was in a hokohoko shop. She couldn't understand that, and I guess a whole lot of us couldn't either. But when she was back here, I remember Hana felt good. She felt really good that she was hanging up in there.
Sadly, in April this year, Hana passed away before she could get any answers. It's a moving moment for her son, Toby.
How much do you think it would mean to your mum to have somebody finally identify and claim that kuia?
Well, I think it would probably mean a lot to you. Yeah. I'm getting a bit emotional. Yeah.
She sounds like a special lady.
Yeah. Just a shame she had passed away this year. The more we lose whānau, the more the whānau want to hang their whānau member on the wall. And as you can see, it's starting to get a little bit cluttered, and the kuia has one clear space in the whare. And so the question was put to us, is it time for her to come down? So we thought, maybe we need to start having that conversation.
But it's a conversation not everyone is ready to have. Yvonne, with their tupuna wahine Po at her side, isn't ready to let her go.
No, no. She's not doing any harm there. We're just hoping and praying that someday someone might see the photo and say, that's my kuia. No, she's fine here. And I got a big mouth, so I would have a big say. Yeah.
Those eyes will just can't stop looking at you. It doesn't matter where you are, buddy. It's just so beautiful, the kuia. And you'd want her to go home to, you know, her whānau. And I was pretty sure if we did find her whānau, they would be so glad that we found her and that they could take her home. Yeah.
How long she has left on the walls is undecided. But getting this kuia home one day would mean so much to so many.
So there's hope. But in the meantime, we'll look after her. We haven't named her either. She's our kuia. Well, that's what I call our kuia. But I've got to say this. When I think about it and think about what Hana did, my cousin, wow, that's absolutely fantastic. And heaps of her Māori heart here.
This opportunity to have her photo out in the motu, spread wide and far across Aotearoa, might give us one more chance. We've had an amazing 20 odd years looking after her. And we wish, just like Auntie Hana wished back then when she brought her here, that if you do come to our marae and this is your kuia, come and take her home so she can be with her own whānau. And I know she'll be loved by you all again.
Ka ti mena, kei te mohi o koe ko wai tērā kuia. If you know who that kuia is, you can get in touch with Marae via Facebook or share this story amongst your networks to help get her home. That's Marae for this week. Ngā manaakitanga o te wā. Kia ora tātou. Ko te reo, te take.